a matter of how these teams operate under pressure, and we're gonna see that happen now from 20boink as well as from Dva1 Bad Guys 0. Can they close it out, or do they give just that little hole, that access and wiggle room enough for 20boink to really burst on through and to get what they need to keep this series alive? And it looks like right now we're going to have a generalizing same team, but Jesus, however, seems to be having moved over to Tracer now instead of the Reaper as they start to switch on for the offense.
Yeah, you know, Blank kind of styled on them towards the end there when he was on Tracer. Maybe Jesus has kind of seen the benefits of having a Tracer there to clean up at the end and wants to try his hand at it himself. You know, it does spell one thing in particular. It spells really rapid aggression. Genji and Tracer, really hard offensive heroes to keep tabs on. And, you know, if they manage to get to the back line and they're running all over the place, they can be difficult to lock down. And that's certainly what the Divas are hoping to do here on this attack.
So very fast-paced, very high flanking action going in right now, coming from Dva1 Bad Guys 0, as they are the team looking to close it out. It is match point for Dva1 Bad Guys 0, with 20boink being against the wall. Already, Jesus and Connor J moving in, trying to get control of the high ground, telling Kapow and Boink to get out of there. But it is, however, going to force Jesus to have to poke over the time warp, and of course make his way back down to his team right now. Both teams are really posturing. They do, of course, as usual, give up the first point, 5.5 minutes, as they try to bring the fight to the server room with Boink and Kapow, as well as 20boink, holding the high ground.
Now it looks like 20boink actually starting to collapse on this payload here. They're actually going to start forcing the Divas back outside of the tunnel, which is going to earn them a decent amount of time here, a little bit of wiggle room, as the Divas are going to need to regroup. Pretty interesting, you know, that the tunnel's usually something teams want to stay away from. I wouldn't have been surprised at all to see the Divas turn things back around onto 20boink once they had adopted that position, but they do make their approach now, exchanging damage through the barriers, but Boink jumps in from behind, going to try and deal some damage from an unsuspected angle here. Failure misses on the charge. Both Reinhardts kind of flailing at each other in the back here. Kapow does manage to take out Vero though. Disaster takes out Connor J, and that's a 2-kill advantage for 20boink, and they're going to try and take this momentum all the way, chasing the Divas all the way back past this first checkpoint. Jesus does manage to take out Boink in the chaos, but overall this is certainly a one-team fight for 20boink.
Definitely, and what we saw there was just a whole lot of chaos of both Reinhardts charging and kind of giving a cue to their teams, especially from Dva1 Bad Guys 0. When you charge in like that, that's a cue for your team to go in. But when you have a missed charge like that, it isn't going to really benefit when the rest of your team goes in. But this one was a lot more successful, as Vero does in fact go in with the charge, but doesn't get enough team effort from his team, as there's not a whole lot of follow-up, and he does get in fact discorded and taken down. The rest of Failure actually going after the rest of the team, as 20boink actually starts to secure the payload once again. 3.5 minutes starting to fall down on the clock right now as they start to regain the high ground, and just like that, we're getting a forced Dva1 Bad Guys 0 to have to regroup yet again, as they sit pretty with 4 ultimates, 20boink to the 2 that Dva1 Bad Guys 0 have, and not really a whole lot to really suffice for a very powerful offense if you're talking in terms of burst spearheading offense, which is what they've tried now twice in a row.
Yeah, the Divas definitely prefer to get a pick before going in without this many ultimates, but instead they do go for a spearheaded team push. Jesus does get a pick onto Blank, and that may be the cue for this team fight to begin. Dragon Blade comes out, but Boink manages to take out Connor J. Primal Rage going wild as Failure's Earthshatter doesn't pick up anyone. YZX does manage to take out Failure. Vero takes out Disaster, and that's a numbers advantage here for the Divas as they start to approach this second checkpoint. They're still being contested though. They do manage to take out Boink, however, and that will earn them this second checkpoint.
4 minutes, 40 seconds. That is the amount of time that Dva1 Bad Guys 0 have to get themselves to that next checkpoint, but they aren't going to give any time to spare, not even waiting for the door to open. They're going to break themselves in. Connor J with the kill off on failure. Blake activating the Deadeye in desperation, but gets absolutely nothing for it, and it's definitely going to cost him. That's half. And just like that, the rest of the team moving back to the payload, showing that we're not going to forget about it, and that's really great to keep in mind. A lot of teams can get very excited and can get really powerful going into that push, but completely forget the payload to get moved, and that could really undo a whole lot of your offensive push. But luckily, they do remember to keep it up. Connor J gonna continue to keep moving. They do not, of course, have to go all the way. They just have to make it halfway to this point, and they look to seal the deal, getting nimbly trapped in as the sound barrier is in fact able to get most of the team, but Jesus and Connor J are gonna get their equal bits. 20 Blink is in fact gonna get some frags off as Kapow gets the double kill. Boink is in fact looking to take up and clean up the rest of what they can get of 2 D.Va, and it is in fact gonna work. Nimbly able to get the last hit off on Jesus, and just like that, they sold on. They hang on by just a thread. But they do need to understand they have but just a few meters of life. If they allow for Dva1, Bad Guy 0 to move into it, this game is over.
Yeah, the D.Va's suffering from a severe lack of focus there on that push. Just too many individual targets. But here comes the second engage. Earthshatter puts down 2. Failure manages to pick up Jesus. Blank picks up Connor J. Massive numbers advantage now on the side of 20boink. They're going to start forcing the attackers back one more time. Kapow chasing forward. Boink as well, going to get that damage through the Reinhardt shield as Vera's forced back to back all the way to their spawn. Pretty resounding past couple team fights. There's still a little bit of time to work with though, and the Divas may be able to find that window they're looking for within the time left.
This right here is unrelenting passion right now as Connor J is going in. Jesus immediately getting the double kill. Connor J is going to take out Failure, and they move in, not allowing for any kind of regrouping to happen. They are spreading them out. Boink is the one man who's supposed to cause some discombobulating and spreading out, but they're not going to allow them. Dva1, Bad Guy 0, they're moving in, nimbly desperate to try to hold on to that point, but it's not going to do enough as they are completely decapitated. Failure jumping to the point. They try to hold it. One swing, but it is futile. Dva1, Bad Guy 0 take the series as your cow. Competitive Overwatch Open Champions number 10 go to Dva1, Bad Guy 0, and the play of this match definitely goes to the Golden Gun man himself, Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus definitely picking up the necessary kills onto the tanks towards the end here. That Death Blossom, so crucial. Yeah, really impressive play coming out from the Divas. They did a great job of regrouping, even after faltering a few times on their pushes. Oh, yeah. And yeah, they definitely showed that they are the ones and the bad guys have 0, Kane.
And there you have it, Dva1, Bad Guy 0, all your champions. I want to thank everybody for having come out tonight. My name is That's Gotta Be Kane, and I have been casting along with Arms Race. I want you to remember that no matter the circumstance, you always keep it saucy.
Alright, Matrin has been taken over by some Omnics, and they've taken over his microphone, so we can't really trust anything that he has to say quite yet. But yeah, just to break down that competition a little bit more, you know, it was interesting to see Watchpoint Gibraltar not taken all the way to the end, you know, especially after we saw a couple of the previous maps go to King of the Hill. Obviously, 20boink would have hoped to have gone to King of the Hill themselves, and it's got to be a little defeating to know that there is not that second chance once the teams don't make it to the end in the first round. There's no way that you can get to that tiebreaker. You know, so that really does put the pressure on, and it's interesting to see how the teams perform in that instance. All right, Matrin, let's see. No. All right. Well, that's going to be it for us today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate all your support. Once again, some shout outs to our sponsors, Matcherino for bringing a prize pool to these competitive players, Random CS for helping us organize the events, Discord for providing us with a platform for us to organize with all you awesome competitive Overwatch players out there, and of course, Master Overwatch for helping us keep tabs on all our Overwatch stats and trends. I am Arms Race. You can find me on Twitter, you can find me on YouTube, you can find me on Twitch. And this has been Matrin, He has been taken over by a robot now, but he thanks you for watching, and he will be released from his Omnic captor soon. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.
The girl that time forgot. She just sheds her ears. She's falling too far with salt in her scars. Won't let it taste her tears. She's falling too far. The girl that time forgot. That time forgot. The girl that time You let her go, catacombs. You let her go, let her go, catacombs. You let her go. She just shakes her ears. She's falling too far with salt in her scars. Won't let it taste her tears.